Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we'll be doing the Miami Heat off-season recap. If it's your first time here, what we do is we break down all the moves that the Miami Heat made this offseason, from the draft, free agency, trades, and everything in between. If you guys enjoy this type of content, hit that like and subscribe button to help out the channel a ton, and leave your opinions or thoughts in the comments. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Now, I'm fortunate enough to work at hoopshype.com, a USA Today company that allows me to get credentialed media to go to Miami Heat practices, games, and whatever in between. So I've been able to see behind the scenes, ask questions, peek behind the curtain of what Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and company do. And it is a well-oiled machine. They know what they're doing, regardless of what the public may or may not think. This is a team that has a plan. And yes, they might have dipped below the tax line with this move, trading Haywood Highsmith to the Brooklyn Nets. But it was time. They probably didn't want to pay him whatever the contract that he and his representation were seeking. And he's coming off of a surgery that occurred from an injury that he suffered this offseason. So they were able to shed that contract, and they are now opening up minutes for their young guys from Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Kasparis Yakachonis, and others to maybe get an opportunity to play in the rotation. Now, let's just talk about who they went out and got. Obviously, Kasparis Yakachonis, the Lithuanian combo point guard. I really do think this guy has similar characteristics. Sounds like I'm almost saying the Aristocats. But either way, this guy has similar play styles and traits to a Tyrese Halliburton. And I'm not saying that he's going to be Tyrese Halliburton. That'd be ostentatious of me. Ostentatious, right? Ostentatious, right? Yeah. I might admit that I'm enthralled with Yakachonis, a guy who's 6'5", can play on or off ball, who's someone who shot over 60% at the rim. He's someone who can get to the rim. He's someone who's creative, has a little bit of flair. And obviously, people are going to be like, oh, he's not athletic enough. Dude, he's big. He's got size. And he plays with basketball IQ, a high basketball IQ, in a way that he sees the floor and sees things before they happen. And I think that cerebral style play and his stoic personality fits well for a Miami Heat organization. Now, Vlad Golden, the Sputnik, the Ruski, who played for Michigan. I mean, if you guys have watched this man's development from when he first came into college basketball, he looked like the guy had only played volleyball and was trying to score with volleyball style tactics. And to how he played this past season next to, my God, I'm blanking on who was Vlad Golden's teammate at Michigan this year. But this past year at Michigan, he was Danny Wolf. Next to Danny Wolf, dude, it was fantastic. A rebounding big who just knows his job, set good screens, be a tough cookie, get to the rim off those rolls, rim run well, then also be a good interior presence, regardless if you can block the shot or not, just contest it without fouling, using verticality, and getting into position no matter what by boxing out opponents. This guy seems like he could be one of the next best Gortat screeners. Depth chart. Let's talk about it. So two ways are filled. Myron Gardner. God damn, I'm so excited to watch this guy. So if you guys don't know, I do a lot of G League work and help out, teams around the draft, which is in October. Myron Gardner 2 years ago was someone that I was really advocating for teams to draft. I think he ended up getting drafted by the Wisconsin Herd. Either way, he played this past season with the Osceola Magic. Oh, he went on a tear. I had dinner with Mac McClung last December, and we were talking about Myron Gardner. He was a guy who got kicked out of Georgetown. Literally, Patrick Ewing called teams before the G League draft to vouch for Myron Gardner, because then he had to transfer to Little Rock, Arkansas. He did, I think, a community college stint. Dude, this guy could be the next PJ Tucker, if not better, and I'm telling you. Woo! 6'6", one of the best shot blockers out there. Can stretch the floor, got some athleticism. I really like him. It seems like Ethan Thompson and Gabe Madsen will be competing for the last two-way. If I have to put money on it, it's Ethan Thompson. This guy is a bucket. He's been a fringe NBA player for the last few seasons. I expect him to be there. Former teammate of Myron Gardner, just coming down from I-95, playing with Osceola last year. Gabe Madsen's probably going to be a Sioux Falls Skyforce type guy as they moved up Keyshawn Johnson. I love Simone Fontecchio. He's from Pescara, where my family's from. Starting lineup, more than likely, unless they put Davion Mitchell in the starting lineup. Tyler Herro at point guard. Shooting guard, probably Norman Powell. Small forward, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, and Khalil Ware. With Nikola Jovic, Simone Fontecchio, Jaime Jaquez, Pelle Larson, Davion Mitchell making up the next 5 guys. Now you're going to be like, who's the backup center? And they said in a recent report coming from Anthony Chiang, shout out Anthony. I've had conversations. He's actually really nice guy. Out of all the beat guys, I'm going to say this. He is, in my opinion, one of the nicer guys. Oh, so is Ira. Ira's just like, the older guys, the problem is they have like legit lives. So like they don't give a crap. I'm not going to like dish on anyone. I have nothing. No one has treated me badly or anything. It's just who's friendlier than others. And I think it's just the older you are, the least you care to be friendlier to someone new on the scene. And it's not like Anthony went out of his way. It's just like we've spoken a few times. I'm more friends with James Jackson with The Athletic. That's like my boy. We carpool. Now, Miami, according to the Miami Herald, the Heat opted to sign Drew Smith instead of a backup center such as Kai Jones, who auditioned for the Miami Heat last week, or veteran center Trey Lyles, who's more of a switch pick, who also has been linked to the Heat. The Heat aren't expected to add a backup center in free agency anytime soon, though it's conceivable that they could be addressed with another trade. So that's the report right there. And as you guys see, Keyshawn Johnson's kind of an undersized big, and Vlad Golden, obviously, being a rookie. Nikola Jovic is more of a combo forward. And so right there. Also, I know that they're trying to jump Terry Rozier's contract, and it's only not partially guaranteed, but I think it's like, what, $26 million? I think it's partially guaranteed for $21 or $24 million. So it's not like it's a huge difference. Yeah, it's like $2 or $3 million, but they still would have to find somebody to dump. If I have to, like I said, I think if there's anybody to look at this team and be like, oh, who could be? I mean, first off, I think Simone Fontecchio is someone to keep an eye out for. I've said this for a while, and everyone agrees. I think Jaime Jaquez is their trade chip if they don't want to use draft assets. And I wonder if they're dangling Jaime Jaquez and Terry Rozier for a player that plays the center position or players. And I know somebody's going to be like, oh, who could that be? Well, like if you're looking at people who are making $15 to $30 million that they might have interest in, it's a difficult proposition, but I'm just going to go through. I don't think they're in the market for like a Jakob Poeltl, and I think if they went for a big, they either want a big that was recently extended to like I really think Isaiah Stewart is someone that this Heat team could be interested in, or like an expiring Zach Collins, something like that, where either the contract commitment isn't insane, or the contract commitment is, like it's an expiring contract. So as you see, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro, Terry Rozier, and Norman Powell all make over $20 million. Herro and Bam Adebayo both make over $30 million. And currently, this is a team, their payroll $183.6 million. The luxury tax is $187.9. They got $4 million below with that Haywood Highsmith deal. And even if they hit their unlikely bonuses, that would still push them to only $186.4 million, leaving them about $1.5 million in breathing room. They're about $9.5 million below the first apron and $21 million, $21.4 million below the second apron, which is huge. They have the two ways filled. They have one more available. And right now, their expirations for their non-taxpayer and biannual exceptions that they have not used, one of $14.1 million and one of $5.1 million, both expire on April 12th of 2026, while their trade exception for Duncan Robinson is the latest to expire, which will be in July 7th, while the earliest will be that Thomas Bryant one, and then the Josh Richardson, followed by the oldest one, I guess, would be Haywood Highsmith, and then followed by the Jimmy Butler. So expect them to maybe try to use this Jimmy Butler. I don't think the Thomas Bryant one or the Josh Richardson one will be able to be used because you can't aggregate them in a trade. So I'd have to bet that it's probably going to be either the Jimmy Butler or the Duncan Robinson one that actually gets utilized. Now, if you're wondering what were the moves that happened, yes, Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, who both of them were great parts of this team, were traded for Norman Powell, who's on an expiring contract and was a 20-point-per-game scorer. They drafted Kasparis Giacochonis at number 20, and this is a guy that a lot of people, including myself, thought was going to be a top 10 pick. They were able to re-sign Davion Mitchell on a reasonable deal, and it didn't have to be using the mid-level exception due to the fact that they were able to do it, by doing these salary cap gymnastics to create the salary cap to re-sign him within the salary cap by just using it instead of an exception. Haywood Highsmith being traded to the Nets for a 2032 pick, and they also attached the pick, so they basically gave him up for nothing. We're able to shed $5.6 million on an expiring deal, and it created a trade exception. So what are we taking away from this? They were able to maximize the roster and create flexibility with limited assets. That's a win. That, in my opinion, deserves snaps, Snaps all around, baby, snaps. And they still have Tyler Herro is going to be someone who He wants to get paid. And I do understand that there's two sides of this. Some people might think, okay, if you pay Tyler Herro, you could get put in a Bradley Beal situation, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine situation, where nothing to say negative about those guys. I'm not trying to disparage them. But what I am trying to say is that when someone gets paid like that, that asset becomes hard to move, regardless how good they have to continue to improve and become all NBA players consistently for that to be a tangible asset that you can move. Now, Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware, Nikola Jovic are all guys that I think Norman Powell and Jaime Jaquez, two guys that Jaime Jaquez, I just feel like he's kind of the odd man out, and he still has upside, and so does Norman Powell. But I think those are two guys, especially also, as we mentioned, Terry Rozier, guys that they seem like they might be the outside looking in and that they could be used for trades. But the thing with Eric Spoelstra's system is that he's always going to be, improving players. Players are going to be called up and expected to perform, and he's not going to be afraid to make an in-game adjustment or adjustment on the fly, whatever he seems viable. This is a team that's obviously on paper right now not an immediate contender. This could be a team that ends up having a gap year, or they could be positioned to compete for a top 6 finish in the East. That seems to be wide open. So to me, I think that's something huge and that people aren't realizing. So to me, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section if you made it to this part of the video. What do you think of the Miami Heat, and do you think this is a playoff team or a play-in team? Again, that play-in run that they went this year was fun, and then they obviously faced their demise and made it to the playoffs. But I digress. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. It'll mean a ton. And obviously, if you made it to this point, you clearly like this type of content, so you should hit that subscribe button. It'll help out the channel a ton. Till next time, guys, but peace out.